Hello everyone, thank you for joining on this morning to this webinar. We, as, we are just going to double check the audio. Please let us know if you can hear us loud and clear. Hi everyone, welcome to Integration Options by Suprema. I would like to welcome to Lori Loest from Suprema, who will be our presenter for today's webinar. Hi Lori, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, Lori, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent, Lori. Well, we are ready to start.
All right, then thank you everyone for joining us today. We are very pleased to have you here with us today. We are Suprema, and along with AppCom, we have the pleasure to present to you the integration options that we have with Suprema for you, So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we can talk about today is about BioStar 2. BioStar 2 is our platform for access control and time and attendance, okay? What you can do with BioStar 2, you can see all the options for access control, including elevator control or lift control, also server matching, video logs, cybersecurity, also see the improved zones control and management. At the same time, you can manage all the things regarding to time and attendance to configure shifts, also the schedules and also the templates for those, and at the same time to administrate or to manage your system remotely through a application, to a mobile application. And the thing that it is the center for the presentation today, which is the integration options with either a SDK or a API, right? So let's go on. What are one of the many strengths of BioStar 2 and Suprema that we can mention? And this is the integration like that, okay? So we have one of the strongest points on the integrations that we have developed or that many other manufacturers have developed along with our devices or our platform. And some of them that we can mention are those that you can see in your screen right now. Software House, Lenel, Schneider Electric, NetApp, Axon, and many others, okay? So please pay attention to all the things that we are going to talk about today. What are or which are our integration tools? And those that you can see on the screen. The Suprema G SDK, BioStar 2 API, also the device SDK and the SVP Android SDK as well. Right, so let's see what are those or what we Suprema refer to any of them when we say SDK and API. The first thing is an API is an application programming interface that, of course, as its name says, lets you interface with the devices, the Suprema devices, and that is to build a bridge between the Suprema device and your server application or your application like that. It doesn't really matter if we are talking about BioStar 2 API, which is a REST API, or if we are talking about the Suprema SDK, either GSDK or the device SDK, okay? What is important here is that API is an application interface that through programming lets you get data or set data to the devices, including user data, credentials, and many others, okay? The other thing that we can mention about this is that when we are working towards an integration, you have to make a lot of server calls in order to actually configure something, so this can be, like you say, like you see, sorry, in the screen, get info from the device, also set commands as time, and other kind of functionalities and configurations, and also get credentials, set credentials, also order the device to scan a person, to scan a card, and many others. So when you are then thinking on what is an SDK, then you will think about a set of many APIs put together inside of a software development kit. And this is an SDK, okay? So in the strict sense, an SDK has a lot of APIs. That means a lot of application interfaces to program the Suprema devices. Okay, so in that generic meaning, an SDK has a lot of APIs available. But when we are speaking about the BioStar 2 API, as it is, we are speaking about a backend service that allows you to extract information from the Suprema devices through the backend service of BioStar 2 server, using that as a platform, or in other words, using it as a framework to easy the integration programming time. Okay, so that will be the difference, the primary difference between the BioStar 2 API and the Suprema SDKs. Another thing that is included into the SDK are also the sample codes and also the manuals for the developer, and many other modules that are included in this as well. Then, if you think about what are the devices included in each of these schemas, the first thing that you will see is that talking about SDK and GSDK, all Suprema devices are compatible to that. But as we were saying in the previous webinar, one thing that you have to have in mind is that if you are working with a BioStation 3 device, you need to work with an SDK version 2.8 at least. Because if you try to manage that device BioStation 3 with a SDK version 2.6, for example, that will not be possible. And the answer is because the device were not out yet when that version of SDK was current. Okay, so the meaning is you cannot handle a device that did not exist in the moment that the SDK was as the current version of SDK, so that's the strict sense of the most simple way of explaining it. Then the second thing to mention is what are those devices that are supported by the API, by the BioStar 2 API? And the answer will be all devices that are available with BioStar 2. And for that, I may also give a notice, or may also speak about one consideration that similarly, like in the previous case, in this case, we will need to have a version of BioStar 2 which is able to manage that specific device. Same example, if we try to manage a BioStation 3 device with BioStar 2.7, for example, that will not be possible. There was not a BioStation 3 hardware at the time of the publication of BioStar 2.7. So that is very much the only thing that we need to have in mind at the time that we are going to start a development for something specific. What are the solutions for that? If you encounter yourself with that problem, it's only to update BioStar 2. If you have already a development for some specific BioStar 2 version, but you need to implement a BioStation 3 device, then you need to make sure only that the BioStar 2 version that you are handling, it is the equivalent, the least equivalent needed for that, you know. So for just taking out any complications from there, the only thing is that you need to have the latest available version for BioStar 2 in order to be able to work with those devices. Okay. And for the SBP Android SDK, the only thing that you have to bear in mind is that only these two devices are compatible. These are VioStation A2, which code name is Omnis, and Noble's device, which is this device that you can see here. Okay, these two devices are compatible with the Android SVP SDK. Okay, so what other thing do you have to have in mind here? When should we use this or that SDK? The first consideration is when we want to build our own server that handles the Supremo devices. Also, when we want to directly access the device to extract the information, and also when we want to have a single system that integrates the hardware of several brands. One thing that is important here is that if we are working with either SDK, we will not be able to work in parallel with BioStar 2. Okay, the reason is very simple. When we are working with an SDK, either as the device SDK or the G SDK, the SDK like that generates a server with which the device, the Supremo device, can connect to. So the bridge between device and server is unique, okay? That means that for security concerns, a device, a Supremo device, cannot respond to more than one server at a time, okay? So that is the reason why if you're working with either SDK, you will not be able to work with BioStar 2 at the same time, right? Next, when then shall we use the API? And the answer is very straight here. Says when we want to have a specific user interface for certain characteristics and still use the features of BioStar 2 server. And why? Because as I have already mentioned, when you are working with the BioStar 2 API, you're working with an REST API. That means that you have a very wide, a very broad options of integrations in terms of the type of calls that you can do. You can do post calls, you can do get calls, delete, and put type of calls as well. So when do you use that? Specifically when you are interfacing, probably with web applications or also desktop applications which are able to make web requests, okay? So in this case, you will be able to use all the underlying functionalities and framework that BioStar 2 offers and construct some custom user interface for some specific use that you may want to apply, as we are going to see today as well, okay? Also, if you want to integrate with BioStar 2 API applications, sorry, with your own system, and also if you just want to work with some very fast forward integration that will not take very long to develop. And when should we use the SBP Android SDK? And this is very specific when you want to go deeper into the level of integration and you want to work directly on the device and in the device at the same time because you want to write your own firmware for the device, okay, for the Supremo device, then you will be working with the SBP Android SDK. This is for constructing a fully customized system, all right? So, device SDK, it is a multi-platform and also multi-language because you can work with either C, C++, or also a higher level as C#. All those are available in the kind of shared libraries which are native for the specific operative system, either Windows or Linux, okay? What do we give you with this? First, we give you documentation, also manuals with information that is very relevant, and also that the information is up to date. That is something that is very important, because those kind of things we do not see when dealing with other manufacturers. Of course, at the forum for writing your own tickets if you find any type of complication or issue with any kind of these things when you will be working with the programming, and also the GitHub repository. One thing that it is worth mentioning here, it is that when you're working with our SDK, you will be fine. The first thing is that our SDKs are free available for you. You only need to type in this URL kv.supremeinc.com, and you will be able to access all the information that we have and also download the SDK as is. So why do I mention this? Because we have some experience with another manufacturer's SDK, and the first thing that you can notice here is that the other manufacturers, they charge a lot of money actually for just giving you access to the SDK of theirs. That is probably the first counterpart that our SDK is available for you for free. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that you have paid already a lot of money to other manufacturers so that you can only use and work with their SDK, but you find that the support, the technical support, is very lacking, if I will say, in the best of expressions that probably I could use. The documentation is outdated. And so it is like, okay, so you're paying a lot of money, but you're not getting what you're paying for. So that's probably the main issue. With us is totally the opposite. It's completely the opposite. That is, you get the SDK for free so that you can work in whatever you want. And besides that, the support is actually one of the best in the market. And not because we say so, but because our customers say so. Okay, so that's what I can mention specifically about this. And also that when you access to the GitHub, you will have also always the latest additions and versions available for you to download and work with. Okay, so you may go and see and find out, the address as you see here in the screen is github.com supremeinc, and then you will see all the repositories that you have available for you to work that we have made available for you. Okay, so what you will see here, it is, of course, the first thing is the SDK release of the official package. Once you go there, you will see the option to download, and once you download the device SDK version, then you will see the package contents as the documentation, the samples, and all the inclusions that you can use for your own project. Okay. Now, if we speak about the Suprema GSDK, what we are going to find here is very much a different kind of topology for working with, in which we will see the gRPC protocol, specifically speaking, that will allow us to have a agnostic language implementation. So how do we work with this? The first thing is that we will be having a gRPC client, which will be interfacing with our application through any of these languages, Go, C#, Java, Python, and others, as we will see in the next slides. And also, when we do this, the gRPC client would allow us to interface with a device gateway, and the device gateway will allow us also in its way to interface with a master gateway. And if we interface with a master gateway, then we will be able to make wondrous things. So when we will be working with the device gateway in itself, we will be having the options for working with the device API, the user API, events API, and many other kinds of APIs. specifically designed for the specific use that you will be interfacing through the devices, the Suprema devices and the core modules. Okay, so this will be the gRPC server and specific. Once you have all those models set up and running, then you will be having a complete functional system. And as I was speaking to you previously, when you do an integration with first the device is then going to the device gateway, which is the first one, and the device gateway interfaces with a master gateway, then you will be able to handle up to 1,000 device gateways. And from there, you will be having a master gateway with up to 100,000 devices. Okay, so that is something marvelous, you know, so that's very awesome just to talk about and to consider, because as far as I know, until this point in the market there is no other kind of connectivity topology that allows you to host up to 100,000 devices, you know, so that is something awesome. From there, of course, you will be having the chance to work with the GSDK clients, and also it doesn't really matter if it's a desktop client or a mobile client. At the same time, if you will be working towards the master gateway also. Okay, so those are just to have in mind all the things and functionalities that you will be able to be working with. If we do a comparison with the device SDK and the GSDK, this is what you will have. The comparison between shared libraries, if we can tell about this in other words, will be native libraries. And native about what? Native about the operating system, okay? This is specific for working with desktop environments. And if you want to work with probably, I don't know, just a more flexible kind of environment, then probably the GSDK will be the way to go. Okay. Another implementation that we have with the kind of GSDK, it is also the ARM architecture and also the Mac OS X operative systems, beside also about Windows and Linux, of course. And as I have already mentioned, the support for C and C++ for the device SDK, then the C Sharp, the wrappers of C Sharp for this kind of SDK. And in contrast with all the example nodes here, with Java, Python, Ruby, Go, Node.js, and PHP and others, you know, as you can see in this other. So if you say, why then, if you have a broad type of alternatives here, you still have this one available that has less kind of alternatives? And the answer is very straightforward. As I have already mentioned, this platform is shared libraries, so native libraries, while this one is not actually native, but is just a translation between a already compiled gateway that allows you to have this kind of functionalities. But of course, with this one, you have a native support in the operative system. Okay, so these are one of the reasons. Okay, so if we go ahead and talk about the comparison between API and SDK. What you will be able to do with API rather than SDK, it is that it allows you to use the Suprema devices with third-party software, but at the same time, still being able to utilize BioStar 2 services, okay? Because there is a direct communication with the BioStar 2 server, the backend service, and actually there is no need for you to build everything from scratch. In here, when you are using the BioStar 2 API, you are able to utilize all the platform and framework that BioStar 2 server means for you. Okay, so that will allow you to make a faster implementation, you know, on integration with other kind of things that you will be interested in working with. Okay, so very much what we do here. First thing, we take in account that we have the BioStar 2 server, the Suprema devices, we have our development, and also the third-party software that probably will be one of the options that you will see ahead in the slides. And of course, each third-party software has its own database. So, for example, if you are interested in visitor software, for example, just to say something, you can send the data of a user through your development, and from there to the BioStar 2 database. And of course, once the data arrives to the database in BioStar 2, then all the data is very much spread or broadcasted through all the Suprema devices that are connected. And at the same time, if some time afterwards you are interested in getting some information, some log information from there, then you can make the request, and that request will allow you to have that information in the middleware. And once you get the information in the middleware, you will be able to get it to your own application and utilize it for something specific, just to providing reports and making some other kind of insights about the platform and the utilization of the devices. Okay. So if we go ahead to the Android SBP SDK, what are we going to see here? If we make the comparison with the device SDK, as we have talked already, the device SDK allows you to have the communication between your client system, but also with the devices. And in here, as you can see exemplified in this screen, half of the work will be already done by the SDK with the interfaces built to handle the communications with the Suprema devices, but the rest of the system will be at your hand to build. That is database interpretation of data, some other kind of enrolling functionalities, etc. All the things that regards to the communication with the devices and the APIs to manage the devices and send data to the devices are already built in the SDK only for you to utilize them, but all other components will be needed to be built by you. But the comparison here with the SVP Android SDK is that you have a client system that needs to be a fully customized system. That is, that you need to build your own database, but at the same time, you need to also build your own firmware. And of course, this kind of development will be focused in that kind of customer which wants to build some specific behavior utilizing the Suprema hardware and interface this hardware to your own system in some custom way as well. So in order of thoughts, you can say that as deeper you are going from the BioStar 2 API and then going to the device SDK or the G SDK, and then going to the SVP Android SDK, you will be having more complexity, yes, of course, but you will be having more control on the device and the platform itself. Okay, so that depends on you actually and the kind of functionalities that you may want to apply. Either way, if you are interested in create your own hardware, we give you the means to doing that. Okay. Comparison again, what does the device SDK do whenever we are setting or sending an scan fingerprint API call? The device will scan the API from the user, we convert that to a template, and then we'll forward the template to the server. Then in contrast with that, when you are working with the Android SBP SDK, you will be doing very much the same, but the difference is that you are going to transfer the full data to the server, and in the server, you will be in charge of processing that data, right? Okay, so if you want to start with this, then you can go to kvsupremeinc.com, SBP SDK, and docu.php. Okay, ID start, right? What can we do here? Or already, do we provide a sample application for you to work? And the answer is yes. What will you be seeing here as I am showing you in this video demonstration? You will be having the device completely unlocked for you to work with it, and you will be able to enroll a user. If you write the ID for the user, you'll be able to scan the fingerprint from them, and also verify the information, update that information, delete that information, or delete all the information that you have already gathered into the application. Also, if you want to set a finger list, or also the maximum number of enrolling capabilities that you will be having available for the users to utilize. Okay. Also, if you want to monitor, the operations that are taking place into the system, you can do that as well on real time. Okay. So if I can give you some considerations, if I can mention something specific for you, is, as I already said, you cannot work with BioStar 2 and the SDKs at the same time. Okay. When you are working with the SDK, that means that the customer or you wants to build your own system from scratch, or actually to interface with some existing platform is a BMS or a VMS. Okay, therefore you need to set up your own database. And important, as I have already also mentioned, but I need to remind you once again, is that when you are working with the SDK, you will be having all the APIs methods that you need to interface with the Suprema devices to go back and forth. But from that point on, you need to work in your own methods to implement, like I said, your own user interface, your own database, and so on, okay? Because the SDK does not provide wrappers for such things. The SDK provides all the APIs and methods for communicating and interfacing and working and managing all the things regarding to the devices. That's it, okay? So if you want to control some Suprema devices or Suprema equipment in a granular way, you will be having these options at your hand, but some of the things you need to work in your own, right? So if we talk about existing integrations, one of those are in-access, which is a visitor software. One of the things that you can see is that the look and feel of this software is very much the same as BioStar 2. This is one of the first options that we have for you to be visualizing here. Actually, one of the oldest as well that started to work with BioStar. And also, besides that, we have the SDG Visitatore. The SDG Visitatore software is part of the company SDG Systems and Solutions. And this software allows you to have not only visitors, but also access control features that allows you also to schedule and pre-authorize the visits of the persons to your site, to your facilities, and also the ability to generate a scheduled access per users. This software works with all types of credentials from BioStar 2. This means that allows you also to utilize QR codes, sending the QR codes on demand as well, and also the mobile applications, and also pre-enrollment links towards the email, and also the traditional credentials as card, face, and also fingerprint, and integrates with all the Suprema devices, and also has support for PC and smartphone. Besides that, we also have the Go-In software from TIP Solutions, TIP Soluciones in Spanish. And the characteristics for this software is that allows you also to generate codes for visitors, that also enables the validation process and follow up for some specific kind of users, in terms of that kind of users that are probably blacklisted, so that is something important, and also allows the digitalization of the information coming from the IDs, which is of course very useful, and allows you to create visits by host, by some specific host, and giving you also the functionality to register Suprema devices. Besides that, we have time and attendance kind of softwares like those web, D2 web, if we say that in English, and some of the very strongest points, sorry, about this one is that through the D2 mobile application, it allows you to enroll very easily an interface to the Suprema system, to BioStar in specific. And also one of the specific things that we can mention here, it is the punching for home office. So you will be receiving a link for you to validate your biometrics directly from the application. And this is very important because, as you see, first is asking the user to smile, then also just to blink. And all these things are provided in random. So even if a person can just to record himself, as doing the first kind of authentication, the next time is going to ask for another kind of sets, a different combination of them. So that's something very important to mention in order to complete the home office punching, and the integration between that geographic localization for a person that is not inside of the facilities to the punchings on the registries from BioStar 2, and the integration within one platform, which allow you to have a schedule planning, multi-company support, also multi-country support, and also overtimes or any kind of holidays computations. Also the integration with payroll integrations, systems, reports, of course, and specialized analytics. So this is a very recommended time and attendance software. Besides that, we have a VMS, secure also from ISS. And what we'll be having here, we'll be having the possibility to get information from the building, from the fire system, also from the license plate recognitions, object tracking, face capture, and also face recognition, transit and character recognition, also, POS security, traffic monitoring, many other capabilities here. What we will be seeing here is how to integrate the secure software to the Suprema devices. And in here, the first thing that you need to register, it is the BioStar server in itself. In here, in the window, you can see all the different kinds of events that we are able to produce from BioStar 2. And once you select the kind of events that you are going to interface, then you are able to select whether that kind of event is going to rise an alarm, if that needs to have some attention specific from the operator, which is in every time monitoring all the situations. And after that, the correlation between the devices, the Suprema devices, between the cameras, and also between the specific layout that there is inside of the facility. So you are seeing here how you can select first the Suprema device that is already installed in some specific part of the site. And after that, the relation with the camera. And once you do the relation between them two, the setup, as you are seeing in the screen, of that specific pair of access control device and the CCTV information. Okay, so you do that, you configure that, and after that, you have also the capability of customizing some other behavior in the system. After that, you have made all the configurations, then the system is ready to work, you know. Then in this video, you will see how the user is performing some authentications. The first thing that he made it is to remotely open a door, which also will allow you to implement that functionalities, remotely open, remotely close, remotely block also the information. Once you perform the first authentication, you see that in real time, the readers are reporting the data and the devices are producing the events also in real time, which are registered by the VMS also in real time. Okay, and just for going ahead with this, we have also hardware wave or network optics, which also allows you to have a granular configuration from them. And here the demonstration. One of the cool features that we have available here is that you can see and configure BioStar 2 in real time inside of the VMS, in this case, hardware wave or network optics, NX. Yeah. So once you receive the update from an event in real time, you will also be able to watch the recording for that event. Afterwards, you are able to see the feed from the cameras in real time, and also going back to logging into BioStar 2, and after that to configure any other capability, for example, the bookmarks or also the alerts coming from different brands of IP cameras, and as you see, receiving the events in real time. Also, after that, you can see all the bookmarked information that you have set up inside of the software. And if you want to open that in a new tab, then you are able to see the reproduction from the event in real time. So what are you be able to do here? As you see, you have the availability for configuring the devices, the Suprema devices, and to correlate that device also with the kind of camera, and also which kind of events are you going to process, you know, so that information, and also the connecting information between BioStar 2 and NX Witness in this case. Okay, and for this software also we have the AKA, AKA or AK, which stands for Access Control Agent from Hemiblaze Software. This is a Dominican Republic company which has worked towards this software, which allows you to integrate events, messages, and alarms from the access control system, as BioStar 2 in this case, with the video captured by the VMS in real time, and also getting the video alarm confirmation. At this time, ACA can work with milestone, with digital watchdog spectrum, with hardware wave, and with NX witness also. Now, ACA or AK receives the doors, readers, users, and events of the access control system and correlates them with the data from the BMS in a simple and attractive interface, as you can see on the screen. And we have here also a video which exemplifies the configuration needed here. So you'll be having this dashboard. In this dashboard, you'll be able to visualize the amount of events that you have had on the system, also the kind of events that any of them are, along with the user events. Besides that, we configure a recipient for the system, and a recipient means the configuration for a specific VMS. In this case, we will be configuring a wave VMS connection, and also besides the VMS connection, you configure the access control system, BioStar 2 in a specific, and you are able to see to watch all the cameras that are connected to the system. In this, it's important to mention that one of these video feeds are a specific the video feed coming from the BioStation 3 device. Okay, so if you did not know, BioStation 3 can be also used as a IP camera, so that's some specific very useful information. So that allows you to write down the information, the configuration to store that information. And once you do that, you will be able to see all the door information from BioStar 2, along with all the readers information. And after that you do that matching between the information, you will be able also to correlate the kind of events that you will be matching against the VMS events, and also configure the external and internal side for a door in terms that we can say here, probably called the insecure side, which is the external side of the door, and also the internal side of the door, which also can be called the secure side of the door. Okay. If you are also interested in seeing the information depending on the user, then you will be able also to select the user, and after that you select the user, it will be appearing here in the sidebar to the right side of the screen, or the events performed by that user. Also, you will be able to see in either in real time or the recording from the VMS in the internal or external side, the insecure or secure side from the door, you know. So that is a very cool implementation, and then you can give you an idea of which kind of functionalities, some kind of software have already been working with Suprema for some time up to now, and that actually you can do many things, you know, as actually anything. As we see in this case study, where these facilities, these manufacturers facilities in Peru, the name of this manufacturer is Biru. Biru made own implementation between SAP and BioStar 2, along with the Suprema devices for some specific topology system. Then also, we can mention something about this sugar mill installation, and with this, you can give you an idea. You can give yourself an idea of which kind of things, like I have just said, you can do with the Suprema devices and these integration options that you have. It's not only the traditional access control, but also you can use the Suprema devices that you are seeing right now to make the registration from the trailers in this sugar mill site, you know. So as you can see in this specific video example, the driver will need probably just to go down and marking the access, and the system, the build system by SDG System and Solutions here will do the measurement and the weighting for these trucks, you know, comparing this information also with alignment system towards a video feed, and relying that information through the third-party system. So you can see that, like I have just said, I would like to repeat it once again. The applications here are endless and depends only on the imagination of yours. Okay, so over here, the refinery called Dos Bocas in Mexico, where the partner integrated BioStar 2 with the visitor software and also with the Securos VMS, where the, you know, as you see here, the face station F2 QR code was scanned and depending on that, either visitors or also the Securus face analyzer will relay some information to the access control system, and then the device will be opening the door or not. Okay, so like I said, the applications are endless. So very much what we would like to remind you is looking at the future or looking to the future, just please imagine how many opportunities open up when you have the full power of the integration in your hands, you know? So we, Suprema, we would like to take you there. Then if you put your trust in us, we will not leave you alone in this, you know? We will guide you through the process and we will help you to succeed. Then just please remind that you have our support and you can look at the options with our devices and with these integration options that we have available for you to utilize for free, and to give you support also towards that process, to give you the preparation, the documentation as well. And if you need some training, we have also some LMS, the Learning Management System, for you already available so that you can make use of them and get the information that you are looking for. So please just have that in mind, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Lovery. Thank you for sharing this valuable information about Suprema. Looks like we don't have questions. We can give 1 minute if someone wants to add something. And just a quick reminder, this webinar was being recorded and we will send you to your email in a couple of hours. Please keep checking our website and our social media for more information on our weekly webinars. Lovely, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys for the space.
And for all of our clients, have a great day. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
All right.